Afternoon, I'm Max Brantley with the Arkansas Times. It's Thursday, August 21st. Let's talk about news in Arkansas. Mitt Romney continued his victory lap of Arkansas today on behalf of Republican candidates. He appeared today with Tom Cotton at a news conference. And Tom Cotton made himself available to reporters, talked a good deal in response to questions about Obamacare and health insurance and issues that are somewhat less important, David Ramsey says, who was there, than perhaps a new thrust on immigration. But Tom Cotton did say, in response to some Mark Pryor advertising, that while of course he wants to keep the popular parts of Obamacare, like keeping people on insurance despite pre-existing medical conditions, and he's going to reform the system. But I'd ask you to take a look at what David Ramsey has written and see if Tom Cotton gave much of a specific response about how he can reform Medicaid or Medicare or Obamacare and reduce the spending by the federal government and still keep all the benefits that come with it. I think he's given a very artful bit of word salad that doesn't really tell us very much. Best that he does move on to immigration, not Obamacare. I'd also ask you to take a look today at the Arkansas blog for some additional reporting I've done on Uber, the car service that is hoping to enter the Little Rock market with its cell phone app where you dial up on your phone and a car turns up and the driver splits the fee with Uber, which has developed this software program to do this car service delivery. I've gotten a copy of the material that's been provided to the City Board of Directors about how Uber works and some of the things it says about driver qualifications, the cars, the insurance, and some issues that people who are perhaps open to Uber but think that regulation is a good thing are interested in. You can see that there and some more that's been provided to city directors, probably in advance of a discussion that could occur as early as next week at the City Board. That won't be a meeting in which a decision will be made, but I think we'll finally begin to see the various sides lay out the pros and cons of adding an additional way to get places in Little Rock on top of the existing taxi franchise monopoly. Elsewhere in Arkansas today, Nate Steele, the Democratic candidate for Attorney General, announced a legislative agenda. It's long and detailed. His Republican opponent, Leslie Rutledge, doesn't really have a legislative package, except she does promise to sue the federal government at every turn over its overreaching encroachment on Arkansas rights. Nate Steele's program is long on popular sorts of themes like preventing cyber crime and child abuse and keeping sex offenders in prison. I personally happen to be more interested in the nuts and bolts of being the state's leading law firm, that is handling criminal appeals and representing state agencies, but it is a political season, so an appeal to politics isn't very surprising. I wrote last night on the blog about some issues that developed after the broadcast yesterday, and they promise to be big issues. One is a meeting at the Capitol next week, ostensibly about the difference in health insurance for state employees and for school employees, but it also, we now know, is going to verge into a discussion about whether we should merge the two giant state retirement systems, one for teachers and one for other public employees. This is sure to be controversial. It would be immensely complex, whatever happens. I think legislators are moved somewhat by the notion that somehow you can save some money on these systems in a merger. The only way you save money is by reducing state contributions or reducing benefits, which is why a lot of state employees are likely to be at this meeting with very open ears and some degree of skepticism. Also on the blog last night, I shared a letter that Joe Nix, probably the state's preeminent water scientist, received from CARGILL about its hog farm operation at Mount Judy up in the Buffalo River watershed. There's been a lot of hope that perhaps CARGILL, a world agriculture giant, might pull away from this hotly controversial hog feeding operation with its potential for polluting the Buffalo River. No way. Its letter to Joe Nix couldn't be clearer. They've made a lot of promises about looking after the environment, but they're not going anywhere. I just don't think they can fold to pressure, environmental or otherwise, on a little farming operation. So they're going to stick with it. Environmentalists are terribly unhappy about it. Joe Nix says this is a pretty good example of business screwing the state of Arkansas, and I'd say that the facts tend to support his view. Elsewhere, we had a $1 million winner in Powerball in Arkansas up in Bella Vista, but the tax man got $320,000 of it. And take a look at our blog for a link to a good report on enhancements to the game day experience, it's called, at the Razorback football games in the fall. Everybody's getting excited about football, but apparently the university is going to do all sorts of things about making the being there better. It'll be concessions and music and signage and helpful people to guide you around the stadium and that sort of thing. As I observe, the best way to enhance the game day experience at Razorback Stadium is for the Hogs to win. Woo Pig Suey, I'm Max Brantley. I'll see you tomorrow.